He had only $2 left in his pocket, just $2, and a dream that seemed impossible to reach. Imagine standing at the edge of everything you know, with no safety net, no backup plan, and nothing but a fierce hope burning inside you. This is the story of a man who started from the very bottom, faced doubt and hardship, and against all odds, built an empire that no one saw coming. When life knocked him down, many would have given up. But he didn't. Instead, he chose to fight, to believe in something bigger than himself. From tiny beginnings in a small apartment, with barely enough to pay the bills, he took the first shaky steps towards something that would change his life forever. What makes this story so gripping isn't just the money or the success. It's the journey, the struggles, the sacrifices, and the moments when everything almost slipped away. You might be wondering, who was this man? What was his secret? And how did he turn just $2 into a vast empire? The answers lie in the twists and turns of his path, moments filled with hope, heartbreak, and unexpected opportunities. This isn't just a story about business or money. It's about grit, resilience, and the power of dreams when everything seems lost. But the road ahead wasn't easy, and his empire didn't rise overnight. There were moments when everything could have fallen apart. What happened next? How did he manage to turn his dream into reality? Stay with us as we dive into a story that proves sometimes the greatest success starts with the smallest spark. He wasn't born into wealth or privilege. In fact, his early years were marked by struggle and uncertainty, just like so many others chasing the American dream, or really any dream. Growing up, he watched his family work long hours just to make ends meet. But even as a kid, there was something different about him. He had an unshakable belief that he was meant for something more. While others settled, he dreamed bigger. After a series of setbacks, jobs lost, chances missed, and doors closed, he found himself standing at that critical point, with only $2 left and no clear way forward. The weight of failure pressed down hard, but giving up was never an option. Every night, he would lie awake thinking about what could be, imagining a future where he wasn't just surviving but thriving. It wasn't just about money. It was about proving to himself that he could rise above. But dreams alone don't pay the bills. The challenges kept coming, mounting debts, skepticism from those around him, and the constant fear that his dream would slip away for good. At one point, it seemed like the universe was against him. Every step forward was met with 2 steps back. Friends and family questioned his choices, wondering if he was chasing something impossible. Yet, in the face of doubt and hardship, something inside him refused to break. There was a spark, an idea, waiting to take shape, but it required more than hope. It demanded risk, sacrifice, and a leap into the unknown. What was that idea? How did he plan to turn his life around with so little to start with? The real story was just beginning, and what happened next would shock everyone who ever doubted him. But first, he had to make the hardest decision of his life. That hardest decision wasn't just about money or opportunity, it was about trust. He had to decide whether to take a chance on someone else's advice, someone he barely knew, but who promised a way out of his struggle. It wasn't a sure thing. In fact, it felt risky, maybe even reckless. But staying where he was meant staying stuck. So, with nothing left to lose, he said yes. The choice set off a chain of events he never could have predicted. Suddenly, he was pulled into a world completely different from the one he knew. A world of fast deals, long nights, and people whose intentions weren't always clear. Along the way, old friendships were tested, new alliances formed, and every step forward seemed to come with a cost. His family, once hopeful, began to worry. Some called him stubborn, others called him foolish. But what no one saw was the private battles he fought, the fear that he might lose everything, including himself. The pressure built up and cracks started to show. Could he keep holding it all together? Meanwhile, there was another layer to the story, one hidden beneath the surface. Behind the ambition and hustle, there was a deep loneliness. The people he trusted the most were the ones who doubted him the hardest, And as the empire he dreamed of started to take shape, a different kind of conflict brewed, a battle between loyalty and ambition, between the man he wanted to be and the sacrifices he'd have to make to get there. The stakes were rising. Every decision mattered. Every relationship was fragile, and the clock was ticking. Would his gamble pay off, or would it all come crashing down before he ever got a chance to prove himself? The answer was still out there, waiting to be uncovered. But one thing was certain: his journey was far from over. As the days turned into months, the pressure grew heavier, weighing on him from every direction. The risks he took started to demand their price. Deals that once seemed promising now felt fragile, and every decision felt like walking a tightrope over a deep canyon. Around him, the empire he was building began to show cracks, signs that everything might not be as solid as he hoped. At the same time, tensions with those closest to him reached a breaking point. Some people who had believed in him started to pull away, tired of waiting for results. Others questioned his choices, warning that he was moving too fast, risking too much. The loneliness deepened because no one really saw the battles he fought inside, the doubts that crept in during sleepless nights, the moments when giving up seemed like the easier path. On top of that, new challenges emerged: unexpected competitors, financial setbacks, and legal hurdles that threatened to undo all his progress. It was like a storm gathering strength on the horizon, ready to test every ounce of his resolve. The man who started with just $2 and a dream was now standing in the eye of that storm, knowing that one wrong move could cost him everything. But what made it even more intense was the inner conflict, the part of him that questioned if the empire was worth the price. Was the dream turning into a trap? Was he losing sight of who he really was? With every step forward, the weight of those questions grew heavier, until it couldn't be ignored any longer. The moment of truth was fast approaching. Would he find a way to push through, or would the dream slip through his fingers just when he was so close? The answer hung in the balance, waiting to be revealed. Just when it seemed like things couldn't get any tougher, an unexpected blow hit him out of nowhere. A trusted partner, someone he had counted on to help build the empire, suddenly turned against him. The betrayal was a shock, not just because of the loss, but because it cut deeper than any financial setback ever could. This wasn't just about money. It was about trust shattered at the worst possible moment. The fallout was immediate and devastating. Deals fell apart overnight, rumors spread fast, and the foundation he had worked so hard to build started to crumble. Suddenly, the dream that had once felt so close now seemed farther away than ever. It was as if everything he'd sacrificed was slipping through his fingers. Friends who had stayed loyal now hesitated, unsure of where to stand, and the pressure mounted beyond what anyone could have imagined. On top of the betrayal, the legal troubles he had been quietly battling exploded into the open. Authorities began to investigate, and the stakes rose to a whole new level. Every move was scrutinized, every decision questioned. What had started as a hopeful journey now felt like a fight for survival, against enemies both seen and unseen. In the middle of this chaos, he faced a critical choice: keep pushing forward despite the risks, or step back and protect what little he had left. But stepping back wasn't as simple as it sounded. The empire had grown too big, the dream too real, and the stakes too high. Pulling away now could mean losing everything he had fought for, not just the money, but his identity and pride. The story was reaching its most dangerous point. With trust broken, enemies closing in, and the future uncertain, could he find a way through the storm? The answer was still out there waiting, but time was running out fast. As the pressure reached its breaking point, he knew he couldn't wait for rescue. He had to act. Gathering every ounce of strength, he faced the betrayal head-on. Instead of retreating, he confronted the partner who had turned against him, exposing the deception with facts and courage. It wasn't easy. The damage was deep, but by standing firm, he began to rebuild trust with those who still believed in him. Slowly, the cracks started to close. At the same time, he tackled the legal troubles with transparency and determination. Hiring a team of experts, he fought through the investigations, proving his integrity bit by bit. The road was brutal, filled with late nights and moments of doubt, but his resilience paid off. The empire, once on the edge of collapse, found new footing. The dream was alive again, not because the path was smooth, but because he refused to give up. Just when it seemed like victory was within reach, another twist hit. The partner's betrayal had been more than just personal. It was part of a larger scheme involving a competitor who had been quietly watching from the shadows. This new threat forced him to make a bold move. Rather than compete, he chose to innovate, launching a new product that changed the game entirely. It was risky, but it paid off, catching everyone by surprise and securing his place at the top. In the end, the empire wasn't just about money or power. It was about the man who refused to be broken, who turned $2 and a dream into something real. But the final surprise wasn't just the success. It was the realization that the greatest empire he built was the one inside himself. And just when the world thought his story had ended, he was already planning the next chapter. With the storm finally behind him, he took a moment to reflect on the journey, from those first $2 in his pocket to the empire he had built through sheer determination and grit. The challenges, the betrayals, and the long nights weren't just obstacles. They were lessons that shaped who he had become. Success wasn't a straight path, and it wasn't handed to him on a silver platter. It was earned step by step, through persistence and the courage to keep dreaming even when everything seemed lost. The relationships that had been tested came full circle. Some healed stronger than before, while others naturally drifted away. He learned that not everyone would understand his vision, and that was okay. What mattered most was staying true to himself and his values. The empire was more than a business. It was a symbol of hope, a reminder that with passion and resilience, anything is possible. Looking back, it was clear the real power wasn't in the money or the brand. It was in the mindset. That belief that no matter how small the beginning, with faith and hard work, a dream could grow into something extraordinary. His story became an inspiration to many, proving that setbacks don't define you. How you respond to them does. As he moved forward, the future was still uncertain, but that no longer felt scary. He had learned to embrace the unknown and trust in his own strength. The empire stood as a testament to the power of hope, grit, and relentless ambition. And so, from just $2 and a dream, a legacy was born, one that reminded us all that sometimes the greatest empires rise from the smallest beginnings.